What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bridging the Geekdoms. I'm one of your hosts, Robert Slavinsky, and with me again this week, Mr. Ken Yambo. What's going on, man?
Hey, it's been an interesting week in terms of our little bubble of universe, so it's definitely going to be an interesting show. So definitely ready to get started.
It's been quite a week for sure. So what have you been up to? Anything in particular that you've been up to the last week besides everything else going on?
Well, just I've actually caught up a lot on the writing on The Cultured Nerd, so you can definitely check out a couple of my newest articles. Have about 3, I think, for the week. So definitely covering a whole range of interesting topics that we're ready to delve into. But other than that, it's just life, as we were speaking right before the show came on. Just life throwing your trials and tribulations at you. So
it's what it does. It's what it does. But let's get going. This is pretty much a jam-packed show this week. So for those of you listening, or if you end up watching, get ready for some big information if you haven't heard yet. Number one thing that we're going to talk about is this right here. Finally got a trailer for season 3 of The Boys. So let's do this, actually. Let's just do this. Can you hear it? No. Can we hear it?
Give me some time to think. I'm in the bathroom looking at me. Facing the mirror is all I need. Wait until the Reaper takes my life. Never gonna get me out alive. I will live 1,000 million lives.
My patience is waning. Is this entertaining? My patience is waning. Is this entertaining? Got this feeling, yeah, you know where I'm using. Does this magic unfold? Does this magic unfold? There goes my Is this entertaining?
I really can't wait for this.
I argue it's one of the best shows on just any streaming platform available right now, honestly.
This is just a fun teaser.
Not one line of dialogue uttered at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great teaser. What's going on, Nicotino? And make sure his show's actually at 6:30, so in about 30 minutes his show will be kicking off. But yeah, dude, I cannot wait for season 3. And it legitimately is one of those teasers that all it does is get you amped up. It doesn't give you anything. It's a teaser. It's not telling you what the storyline's going to be, but it's just there to get you amped up. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I personally think the way the trailer begins is sort of a reveal in and of itself, along with the poster that you see that they release a couple of days before the trailer, just of Billy Butcher just having superpowers at this point. That's something that clearly has not been touched upon just quite yet in the show. It's going to be interesting to see how, I know they follow the comic book storyline in a way, I guess in season 3. It's going to be interesting for sure to see what's the reasoning behind it. I believe when I read one of the quotes from the showrunner, and he said that the first 10 minutes of the show is actually kind of crazy in and of itself. But there's definitely plenty of reveals in there. You obviously get a first look at Jensen Ackles' Soldier Boy in season 3. So it's going to be quite a fascinating turn to see, I guess, not a superior, but somebody on the same level as Homelander's, I guess, looseness in terms of mental stability. So it's going to be interesting for sure. I know Jensen Ackles had a little bit of a tryout for Captain America, so this is, I guess, his second chance to play a Captain America sort of character. But like I said while the trailer was playing, this has to be one of the best shows on any streaming platform available. And it's kind of a trope on everything we kind of love about superheroes, but I'm all in it, man, honestly.
Oh, me too. I've not ever gone into the comics or read anything.
Yeah, no, same here.
But this show, it's a nice change of pace from the superhero genre that's out now, because we're so used to the Marvel campiness, and even DC, while it's dark, it's like dark and gloomy sometimes. This here is just off the rails, balls to the wall, just absolutely madness. And that's what I really like about the show. And I can't wait for season 3. And the casting has all been phenomenal. So I'm really excited to see Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy. I want to see what he's going to bring to the show. And I've only heard bits and pieces of what that character is like.
Right.
So I am excited to see what they do with it. And I think one of the biggest things is, for me, I've stayed away from jumping into the comics for this show for a couple of reasons, because we'll take The Walking Dead, for instance. I was a huge Walking Dead fan because of the show. It wasn't until the show came out that I jumped into the comics and started reading the comics. And once I got about, I don't know, maybe, like 70 issues into the comics, I was like, the show sucks. I just stopped watching. It ruined the show for me.
Okay, I've heard that from a couple of different viewers of The Walking Dead that are actually into the comics, that the latter it goes on into the show, the more just off the rails it goes in terms of in terms of quality. So
exactly. So with this, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to start reading the comics and then be disappointed when the show didn't live up to the comics, or even vice versa, really. So the comics, I may, go into them maybe once the show ends, but right now I'm just letting the show take me on the journey. That's what
I have on good authority from someone that actually has read the comics that the show does it justice, and then actually takes it to a new level in terms of just goriness, in terms of just off the rails, ball to the wall sort of ordeal. So that's something that I've also kept in reserve, where I will let the show play out the way it's supposed to play out, and then kind of just delve into the comics after and see if everything matches up. But honestly, just the quality of the show, the writing, the just pure bloodiness, honestly, is something they've embraced and have definitely captured my attention for sure, and captivated the whole audience for sure. So can't wait for season 3 to drop, honestly.
I can't
June
wait.
3rd cannot get here fast enough.
I don't know if I'm going to show this. Actually, let me see. Maybe I can pull this up real quick, because the next thing I wanted to talk about is a show that's coming out very soon, and I have yet to watch this one right here. Just dropped a few hours ago. So let me do this, and this here.
No, I have not seen this either.
So Moon Knight. Moon Knight is kind of building up right now. The hype is building. It's coming out at the end of this month, just in about 10 days from now? Was it the 23rd?
I
30th.
thought, I was just about to say, I think it was the 30th, more towards like the end of the month. Yep.
So they're really, full steam ahead right now with their marketing, everything. And there's been so much coming out that has excited me for this show. Much like The Boys, I've never really read the Moon Knight comics. Now, I was just handed a nice big stack of Moon Knight comics that I can start reading. I'm hopefully going to dive into some of those later this week, because I kind of want to know a little bit about Moon Knight before I get into the show, because he is a wild character, absolutely wild character. So I am really looking forward to it. But this little teaser, 30-second teaser, dropped today. So let's give this a quick watch.
Steven, you weren't supposed to see any of this.
What are you?
You sure you want to know?
I love the duality, or not the duality, but the
split personality. Great, honestly.
Between my waking life and dreams. Am I like some sort of secret agent? It's a little more complicated than that.
Marvel Studios.
It looks fantastic. And to think that is a television show. Like, that is film quality special effects they're showing there. I repeat, I cannot wait for this show. But then again, I've been loving all of the Marvel shows except for WandaVision, really. WandaVision wasn't my cup of tea. But what are you expecting from Moon Knight?
for one word that I could definitely come up with, mayhem, honestly. It's something that, as you just alluded to, it's something that I'm not particularly too ingrained in terms of the comic book lore. I do know that this delves into, obviously, or leans into the supernatural side of things for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is something that hasn't been discovered, hasn't been delved into quite yet. But obviously, there's been allusions to it, but I feel like we're going to be delving full into it. The split personality and the not knowing between dreams and life and the insomniac and the insomnia, I guess, hints that they're throwing in these trailers is something that is really interesting to me. And it's just going to be interesting to see moving forward if this character is going to have a place amongst the, or alongside the, I guess, the Avengers team that we think is coming our way. But it's fascinating. It obviously opens the door for Mahershala Ali's Blade to come into the universe kind of seamlessly, which I know that the showrunner kind of commented saying that it's its own thing, saying that it's not really connected to the greater MCU at this point, but
Well,
obviously take it with a grain of salt on that one.
that's the thing. I wish I could pull up the comments. I don't have them right here because those comments are a little misleading. The Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel MCU, whatever you want to call it, they're heavily moving forward into the supernatural realm.
Yeah.
And we got Moon Knight, we have Blade, we have Werewolf by Night being made. There's been discussions on Man-Thing. They are moving full steam ahead into the supernatural side of the Marvel Universe. That is kind of the way it seems is they're going to have their own little secluded universe over here that is, while it's connected to the grander universe and may, connect in some form or fashion, or one go one way, one go the other, however it's going to be, they're going to focus on their little section over here. And like I said, there may be crossovers from time to time, but otherwise that supernatural side is going to be in its own little secluded area, which I'm okay with. I am so excited for that. Unbelievably excited for that, for the supernatural. So I'm looking forward to it, but I want to know what all of your thoughts are. Everybody watching or whatever, listening, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What are you expecting to see from Moon Knight? What is what are your expectations of this character, and what is it that you're looking forward to the most when it comes to Moon Knight? So let us know in the comments.
One thing I do want to say is the person in charge of making the posters for this show and for making the teasers and the little Disney Plus leaping into the moon definitely deserves to be on the Marvel team for the foreseeable future, because I think it was the Mr. Knight poster from a couple of weeks ago that was just stunning to me. I felt like the cinematography behind it and just the overall feel and nature of the suit, and then the Moon Knight suit, and then just having Steven in one of the regular posters, I thought was just a great articulation of all three sides that we're going to be introduced to. Me personally, I cannot wait to see the Mr. Knight, I guess, persona. Seems like that's probably the most interesting one, but I'm just excited in general for the show. I had very high expectations because, as you said, most of the Disney Plus shows that we've gotten, while have not been groundbreaking in terms of furthering the MCU, with a couple of exceptions, obviously, I feel like each show has had its own story and quality to it that really attributes it to more of a cinematic feel rather than, I guess, a low budget feel. So I definitely see Marvel leaning more into the Disney Plus side, and I cannot wait to see what Moon Knight has in store for us, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do. All right. Next thing that we're going to move on to, and coming from the Culture Nerd again, courtesy of Mr. Kenneth Yambo right over there, is this little bit about Deadpool. So finally, Deadpool 3 is moving in the right direction. Finally, we have a director attached to the project, which I'm all for this director. I think he did a fantastic job with Free Guy. But we got Sean Levy, I don't know the correct way to say it, I'm terrible with names, directing Ryan Reynolds once again, but this time he will be directing him as Deadpool in Deadpool 3. I want to get your thoughts on this. I just kind of went off on my own here, how much I love this idea, and the combo of these two I felt was fantastic in Free Guy. Now that is a bit more family friendly,
right,
than say Deadpool. But I think Sean Levy understands Ryan Reynolds' mannerisms, his acting, and I think
Oh,
that
of
they work
course.
well together. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a good combination. What do you think?
So I just recently saw The Adam Project, which is their newest collaboration, I guess, on Netflix. And to say that the writing was superb is, I feel like, an understatement, honestly. The child version or the younger version of Ryan Reynolds was written so incredibly hilarious that I feel like he's going to be able to naturally capture Ryan Reynolds', I guess, demeanor of the character. Obviously, where we will see him pop up is going to be a little interesting to me. I guess that's the main question that my article poses. Is it's going to be interesting to see how Marvel kind of moves forward with Deadpool. You know, you don't really know what's going to happen with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but a lot of fans have pointed to that being some sort of the ending of that film being some sort of, let's pick a character from this universe, pick a character from that universe, and try to just fold it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it's going to be quite interesting to see how Deadpool is incorporated into the family-friendly sort of environment that the Marvel Universe has kind of settled itself into. I know they're trying to expand the universe beyond just what we've known, so it could be very well possibly be that we have Deadpool kind of acknowledge it in a way during Deadpool 3, where it's like, hey, Marvel brought me in for this, but for my solo films, I'm just going to be in my own universe. But
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see moving forward how they will incorporate him into the universe. Because me personally speaking, I think he's just such a bankable character at this point that it's kind of, what's the word for it? It would be a missed opportunity for Marvel to just have him operate in his own world where he could be incorporated with the greater universe that we've come to know and love. And I just honestly can't wait to see what they do. I know Kevin Feige has some sort of plan for it, so it'd be interesting to see how they do it moving forward, honestly.
Yeah, the thing I take a look at with this whole Deadpool being brought in the MCU, and you kind of said it best there, is he's going to be able to live in his own films and be as raunchy and dirty and inappropriate as he wants to over there. He can still fit the PG-13 scope of the regular Marvel films if he's utilized properly. And I think, and this is, I guess, a rumor. I know that there's been a lot of back and forth on it. Is he going to be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? I have heard for quite some time that he will be in that movie. Things can change, but I've heard from a couple reliable people that he will be in Doctor Strange in some form or fashion. Now, with that, I think he's going to be used sparingly there, and it's just going to be the introduction. It's going to be, oh, look, he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. And then his movie is going to expand on that a bit more. And I'd love to see him cross over from time to time in different films here and there. And I don't expect him to be, if they do another Avengers film, I don't expect him to be a full-time member of the Avengers. But could he show up in an Avengers movie in a comedic moment? Absolutely.
Right.
And that would work best for his character with that PG-13 rating in mind. The one thing that I didn't mention is Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who scripted the other Deadpool films. They are now working on Deadpool 3, replacing Wendy Molyneux and Lindsay Molyneux-Loughlin. The two that were originally attached to it were working with Reynolds for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken. And it looks like now they're bringing Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick back into the mix to...
Which I think is for the better, for sure.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
obviously with their grip on the character, given the first two films, I personally thought the first film was a lot more funnier than the second film. But given the amount of context that they had to introduce with Josh Brolin's character and then Domino and then the whole X-Force, I thought they balanced it relatively well. So I think it's going to be, I guess the familiarity is going to be something that Ryan Reynolds will obviously use to his advantage. Sean Levy, with the camaraderie that they've formed over the first two films that they've worked on, I think it's definitely something that's set up for success. And given Kevin Feige's oversight on the project, I think that only contributes to its legitimacy. So it's going to be fun, honestly, for sure. Deadpool's always a fun character to follow no matter where he goes. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait for the next Deadpool. I can't wait for all this Marvel stuff. There's so much going on right now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I cannot I can't. I really can't wait for it all. Before we get into our next topic, though, I kind of wanted to give a shout out to my boy Dawson Weidrich of Nerdy in Many Ways, or now the Four Nerds Network. He recently just had a comic release called Vine Lord Volume 2.
Nice.
It is available at Amazon, and I tell you what, I mean, I got it here. This is kind of what it looks like if you can see it. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet. I got it last week. I've just been really busy with family stuff. I'm hopefully going to get a chance to read it here in the next couple of days, and I am going to do a quick review of it. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, Vine Lord Volume 2 out now. Find it in Amazon. Support those small, creators.
Absolutely. Yep.
That is a huge
Absolutely.
thing, because that's where brilliance is found, is in those small creators' minds. So make sure you support him and pick that up today. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic.
Hello there.
All right, so Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer dropped finally. And what did I say? Last Monday I said, hey, be on the lookout for Wednesday.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep, absolutely on that one. I give you credit, full 100% credit for that.
Well, it wasn't me. I mean,
Right.
shared it from somebody else. But yes. But we're going to watch this trailer. Hopefully stream doesn't get taken down from it. But this trailer is phenomenal. And I kind of want to get your reactions to it after we watch it. Yep. So here we go.
The fight is done. We lost.
Little Luke, come on.
Stay hidden.
Already a win.
Yeah.
Music choice just
superb.
The key to hunting Jedi is patience. Jedi cannot help what they are. Their compassion leaves a trail. The Jedi Code is like an itch. He cannot help it. Where is he?
A little bit of Vader there. So, tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, obviously the trailer, I feel like, leans a lot into the nostalgic part of this series that we kind of touched upon a little bit last week. You know, just playing on the fans with the music choice, with certain lines that are delivered. I personally think that this show is going to be the best out of all of the shows that Star Wars has released on Disney+. I think it's just going to be epic. It certainly has a cinematic feel to it, which is something that we attributed to the Disney Plus shows originally. And it's, it's Obi-Wan, it's kind of sells itself in a way if you're entrenched deep into Star Wars lore. And just the play on the music is something that really stood out to me, just because it's going to be kind of crazy to see what the follow-up is. So I believe it's set 10 years after episode 3, yes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And just to see that time period with, I want to say, a prime Vader in a way, sort of in a way, is going to be epic, honestly. And I know you just pulled this up. I read this earlier, and I was going to get your takes on it. You were going to get your take on it before the show even started. But,
yeah,
it's, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the trailer's phenomenal to a point in getting people excited. I'm not going to sit there and say it's still this year the best trailer, and quite possibly the best trailer I've ever seen is the Doctor Strange trailer. That trailer just blew me away. But like Kenobi, I was excited for this show. Like there is nothing about this show that I was sitting there like, oh, like I don't care. No, this show has been the show I've wanted for the last 15 years. I've wanted to see the continuation of Kenobi's story. So absolutely, I'm excited for this show, and I thought that they did a good job in highlighting some of the aspects of what we're going to see in this show with the Inquisitors. And I don't want to hear people talking about designs, comparing it to a cartoon. People
No.
need to just stop with
Take
that.
take a step back in a way.
Exactly. This is live action. Comparing it to a cartoon, you can't do that, and you shouldn't. I think overall this show is going to be amazing. Deborah Chow, who did an amazing job with what she did on The Mandalorian, I think is going to do fantastic here. So that I'm all for. But the one area that I am a little concerned about is this here. This right here concerns me because they were going to have Darth Maul return in Obi-Wan. Why? That bothers me to a point because and then the scenes were scrapped and changed to Darth Vader at that point, which means Vader was not part of the story originally,
which is mind-blowing. Actually,
it's mind-blowing and worrisome to me. Not saying that the show's gonna be bad. It just worries me to sit there and you think like, what was going through their minds when they were originally writing this show? Because we all want that story of Obi-Wan coming to realization that Darth Vader survived and he is the man in the black suit and the one that is wreaking havoc across the universe. We wanted to see that. That's what we want to see. The Darth Maul aspect has been done between him and Obi-Wan in the cartoons. Yeah, it'd be cool to see it in live action. I get that. But it would then weaken what they made over on the cartoons, in my opinion. And it's also not really needed. I think if they want to bring Darth Maul back to live action, they have a great continuation after Solo to go that route.
Yeah. Yep.
So at this point, when you really think about it, it's like, why did they even consider that? So that to me, I'm just a little worried because the creative minds, they were so close to doing this. So it's what other bad decisions could they have made for this show? That's why I'm worried because from this story. But other than that, I'm still amped and excited for what we're going to get.
I just go back to the trailer that we just saw and just the nostalgia between the two themes that they decided to use, that it just plays on Star Wars fan, like true, like deep Star Wars fans' hearts when they hear that music, because they know exactly what those scenes entailed. So to get a follow-up on it is kind of amazing to me. Whether or not the story kind of matches up to the hype that's behind it remains to be seen, obviously. I tend to lean on more of the glass half full type of guys, so I will hold out hope that the plot won't be lacking. But I'm pretty confident in Ewan McGregor's acting abilities to pull this off and to pull off an older, more grizzled Obi-Wan that's a little war weary. So can't wait to see it. Hayden Christensen coming back as Darth Vader is obviously is going to be quite an epic scene whenever it happens. I do hope that they do the role justice and don't make it an extended cameo in a way, if that makes sense. I hope that it's more of an episodes long role rather than an extended cameo, but I guess it just remains to be seen at this point. The excitement couldn't be through the roof, and Well,
with that, I do want to bring up a couple possible spoilers for the show because this has started making its rounds. Now, are you against spoilers? Do you not like hearing spoilers? Are you okay with hearing stuff before you see it? What are your thoughts on it?
I'm pretty open with spoilers. If someone's going to outright tell me how something ends, then that's something completely different for me. But if I'm going to know little plot details and know little characters are going to show up, I'm totally cool with it. I am more of experience it and enjoy that moment when I first experience it. So whether I know it or whether yeah.
So according to Star Wars Meg over on YouTube, and I believe this also came from makingstarwars.net, They are claiming that we're going to actually get 2 fights with Obi-Wan and Vader in this show. They're claiming that we're going to get a battle early on in the series where Obi-Wan struggles and kind of comes out the losing side of it. And then obviously the second battle is a little more epic, a little more intense. And obviously we've seen episode 4, 5, and 6. We know that Obi-Wan and Vader survive, so that's not spoiling anything. But that there would be a second battle between the two of them, which would be a little more intense and showing Obi-Wan opening back up to the Force in that regard. And they both have gone into great detail on their channels. If you're somebody who does like spoilers, I would encourage you to go check out Star Wars Mag or makingstarwars.net. They have a lot of information, spoilers for the Obi-Wan show. I have listened to quite a bit of them, and I got to say there's a lot of it that I'm looking forward to. Some of it I'm kind of curious on why they made some of the decisions they made, but overall I am looking forward to this show, and I think we're in for a real treat come May 25th.
Can't wait, honestly. It's going
I can't
so
either.
yeah, I feel like that's the natural progression of things. So obviously you had the lightsaber duel that ended episode 3 and it ended in the result that it did, which you can kind of argue Obi-Wan got the better hand on that, the higher ground, as you will. And I feel like it would be only natural to make the score even in the early onset of the series, and then move forward with them dead even at a dead heat, trying to, I guess, rip each other apart. So that's going to be something that's fascinating and that I'll look forward to.
And I'm going to end with this. My hope is this. My hope is that at the end, the final time that Vader and Obi-Wan meet, I kind of want Vader to think that Obi-Wan is dead. I do. I want him to beat him and think that he's dead, because then there's no reason to search for him anymore.
No.
And that's kind of what I want to see happen, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Which kind of leads into the way everything unfolded in episode 4 in a way. So it would definitely contribute to, I guess, that overall feeling. So I tend to agree with you on that. So.
And also, I mean, then again, we're also hearing rumblings that Kathleen Kennedy and Ewan McGregor, they're all talking about a possible season 2. This is supposed to be a limited series, a one run, but there's been talks about possibly doing a season 2. So what does that mean for how it ends? And obviously, in my opinion, even if they do a season 2, if they do the Vader aspect this season, they don't need to do it again in season 2. You don't even need to have Vader in season 2. Obi-Wan could have other adventures that he goes on. So
trying to restore the Jedi Order is something that I feel like is most certainly could be done, but something that's been, I guess, hashed over a couple of times, but it's going to be interesting for sure. I definitely went into this thinking that this is going to be a limited time series. This is the news about Kathleen Kennedy commenting on a possible season 2 is news to me. So it's Disney and the machine trying to obviously capitalize on some of its more popular characters due to the familiarity with it. So can't really fault them for that, but it might do it justice. It might not do it justice. We'll just have to wait and see. So
definitely wait and see for this, but I cannot wait for Obi-Wan. I just can't. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so
yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right, next up. All right. So next up, obviously, is Restore the Snyderverse. A little bit of an update. Not much of an update. There really isn't much going on in the world of the Snyderverse. I mean, nothing came up this past week, right, that has anything to do with Snyderverse. Nothing at all.
Not at all.
So originally in my notes, because I wrote them on Friday, as I normally try to prepare a few days early, there was really no news. And then information broke from Grace Randolph saying, hey, Ben Affleck is not going to die in the Flash movie, and he's keeping the door open to being Batman again. Real quick, I want to get your thoughts on this, because the rest of this show is all about DC. So this is all going to kind of be a hodgepodge of everything. So I want to get your thoughts first on that, though. Grace Randolph, she's coming out saying that the latest version of the Flash movie has Ben Affleck's Batman surviving. which means he is open to returning as Batman in future installments of something. What are your thoughts?
So obviously, we've been led to believe that it's been very hard to track where Ben Affleck stands in terms of the Batman role that he has within the greater DCEU. Obviously, he's my favorite iteration of the character, so I would obviously love to see him return in some sort of capacity, whether that's a solo film, supporting role in other films. In terms of Grace Randolph's specific comments, it's hard to keep a track in terms of where is legitimate news versus what we can take with a grain of salt. I obviously will lean towards believing this since I'm obviously a big advocate of the character's iteration itself. But it certainly makes sense. We're going to touch on it in a little bit, but the Flash, breaking news, guys, the Flash got moved back almost over a year now. So it's going to be interesting to see what unfolds in terms of what is going to be changed, what is going to be, I guess, retrofitted to fit certain iterations of films. And I personally think that letting Ben Affleck's Batman die and the Batman for Michael Keaton's Batman to, I guess, take over the main Batman role in the DC extended universe continuity is a mistake. That's a personal opinion of mine, but that's just something that I personally feel like. I know Michael Keaton's probably adored amongst a majority of the fans due to obviously his films are great, but the DCEU is a different animal, honestly, and with the foundation that's already been set with the movies that we've seen, it's hard for me to imagine Michael Keaton's Batman at the age that Michael Keaton's at, and it's no offense to his age at the moment, it's just very hard for me to envision a universe with that Batman as the main Batman. So obviously we're going to get into it a little bit about in terms of what's going on behind the scenes, but just off of face value, I obviously love to see Ben Affleck live. Batfleck, as everyone likes to call him. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Now, I kind of want to point out here. So this whole Batfleck lives thing, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about it. The Flash movie, as I've said for the last year and a half, is going to reestablish the DCEU. What happens in the Flash is going to solidify the main continuity in the DCEU moving forward. That is what it is. That's what's happening. That's how it's going to be moving forward. There's no changing that. Whether the Flash succeeds, fails, bombs, whether Aquaman fails or succeeds, this continuity is moving forward. They have many projects in line. They have things in production, things in post-production, things just moving. This continuity is going to move forward. So whether Ben Affleck's Batman lived or died in the Flash didn't bother me as long as it served the story. If it serves the story for him to live, great. If it serves the story for him to die, great. Just make the story work and make it good. That's all I care about. Michael Keaton coming in as being the Bruce Wayne of this DCU continuity, and I guess we'll see flashbacks and Batgirl of him being Batman. That I am a little worried about, but my interest is more piqued than anything for that to see how they make that all fit together, because I am such a big fan of Ben Affleck, but I grew up with Michael Keaton's Batman. That was the first movie I ever saw in theaters, was 1989's Batman. So I am all for seeing what they can do with this and seeing how they can make it fit. But again, all I really care about is good story. I want to see a good, strong story that works. Now, that's not to say I'm not wanting the Snyderverse to be restored. I absolutely want the Snyderverse to be restored. But here's the kicker. Even if Ben Affleck's Batman died in the Flash movie, that doesn't mean they can't restore the Snyderverse. That doesn't mean that Snyder's vision, his arc, his Elseworlds story could not live on, because that is exactly what they are, as Elseworld stories. So this does not necessarily mean that the Snyderverse is restored, like so many people were claiming on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Oh, he's staying alive. They're greenlighting the Snyderverse. No, that had no bearing on the Snyderverse being restored. They're making a movie. They're trying to put the best story they can on screen. So with that said, yes, I absolutely want the Snyderverse restored. No, I don't care what they do with the Flash movie, as long as it's good. And it has no bearing on what happens over on this side with the Snyderverse. It doesn't.
I just have a fascination with this movie because it's It's interesting to me that they've decided, obviously they've taken liberties from the Flashpoint comics, and I just personally feel like with the foundation that was set, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and all the ensuing movies after that, that they did have a Flashpoint story there. You had Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne, you had Lauren Cohen as Martha Wayne, so you had the characters there. It's just interesting to me that it's definitely a Flashpoint adaptation, but
Yeah.
to call it a direct adaptation is definitely a stretch. But I just feel like it doesn't do the storyline that they're trying to promote any justice, honestly. I don't really have any updates in terms of Aquaman or Wonder Woman standing in the films, but the fact that it's a Flashpoint movie and we do not have a concrete evidence of Aquaman or Wonder Woman being involved at all is kind of it's kind of disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said last week, and what we talked about, it's going to be a very polarizing movie for sure. It
Yeah.
can go either way with the fans at this point, regardless if you're a Restore the Snyderverse fan or just a regular DC fan. It is going to reset the universe for sure. What that means, not too entirely sure. I guess we'll have to wait until the curtains close on the film to really give a real idea on that. But
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting for sure. I wish it was a direct adaptation of the Flashpoint. I'm a big fan of the animated movie for
Oh,
sure,
so am I.
but it's going to be interesting. I'm a wait and see type of guy when it comes to the Flash. Love the director, love the character, but it's going to be a wait and see for me for sure.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Snyderverse, I did throw a poll up on Twitter today because I wanted to find out what everybody's expectations are with the closing of the merger coming just in a few weeks. Now, we know that the stockholder, the shareholders, all approved the merger the other day, which is basically fast tracking everything to being complete within the next couple weeks. So I said, what are your expectations once the Discovery WB merger is complete? And, I wanted to see, are people thinking there's going to be swift changes, no change at all, slow and steady changes? And, everybody's seeming to go with the slow and steady changes, which I think is what we need to be looking at. Yeah, it's only 31 votes, but I think people are seeing that, this is going to be a slow transition. And when it comes to the Snyderverse, that is going to be part of that slow, steady change. Don't expect Zaslav to come out and say, Snyderverse is restored coming 2023 on HBO Max or anything, or whatever they call it now, because they're going to be combining Discovery Plus or whatever it is and HBO Max. But it's going to be a slow pace when it comes to this being complete. So I know everybody's looking at, when is the merger date? When is that going to happen? Patience, because even when the merger comes, I don't want everybody to be disappointed when they don't hear what they want to hear that day or within the next few days. That's kind of why I put that up and wanted to talk about that. But finally, before we move on to the rest of the DC content, I want to remind everybody of this because I've been planning this. It's not as big as I wanted it to be. I couldn't get the people that I wanted to get involved with it, but we're still doing something here at Bridging the Geekdoms. We're still going to have a good time celebrating 1 year of Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're going to, on March 19th, which is next Saturday, going to have a live stream watch along of Zack Snyder's Justice League. During that time, we're just going to talk about all things Snyderverse. That's all we're going to talk about, whether it's commentary on the movie or if it's going to be updates. Maybe we'll have some news. Maybe some breaking news will come over this week that we can talk about, or speculation or theories. So that is this Saturday. So join us here, 3 p.m. Eastern, at Bridging the Geekdoms. Now, I will not be playing the movie on the stream. We can't do that. So I'm going to be watching it over here on my tablet. It's going to be right here on my tablet. We'll queue it up for anybody watching, and we can watch along together and just comment and have a good time, because I want to celebrate. I wanted to do something to celebrate this. And, hey, I'm going to try and push people to donate to, AFSP, all that, because the movement, the restore, or the release the Snyder Cut movement,
Been a while since we've heard that. That movement,
But we can't forget where we came from.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I just want to I want to do that. So that's this Saturday. It's going to be a nice long 4-hour stream. So please join us as we watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. All right, so now we're going to move on here. Where are we at? Delays, and more delays. All right. So we literally just got a what was it? A little teaser trailer just a couple weeks ago.
It's been playing since quite literally the end of February in terms of just everywhere. I've seen it on TV during the Super Bowl. I've seen it before the Batman. So
it was right before the Super Bowl, so beginning of February. And this came out and was like 2022 needs heroes, and it's the big four movies from DC, which was the Batman, Black Adam, Aquaman, and the Flash. They're like, hey, these are coming out this year. Get excited. Well, they decided to just this other day, and this is coming courtesy of the Cultured Nerd once again, that out of nowhere, Warner Brothers has shifted its entire DCEU slate. Let's see, where is it at here? Well, first off, we got a little message from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Beautiful Hawaii. All right, guys, I have got some big and exciting news to share with you coming out of our movie industry. As you guys know, this year we have two huge and epic $7 productions and DC movies coming out. The first is Super Pets. The second one is the one and only Black Adam. So here's the big and exciting news. We are moving and grooving, and we are changing release dates. I'm planting two flags right here, right now. I wanted you guys to hear it directly from me first. The first flag is we are moving Super Pets to July 29th of this year. I know what you're thinking. Rock, that's the Black Adam date. It was. The second flag I'm planting, Black Adam will now move to October 21st, right before Halloween, playing through Thanksgiving and playing through the Christmas holidays. Cannot wait for you to see these movies. Super Pets, July 29th, October 21st, The Man in Black, Black Adam. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. I love you guys. Enjoy the movies.
So I wouldn't say it's exciting.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
Poor choice of words there.
It's rather disappointing. Now, I know, first off, The Rock is the only one that's going to ever be allowed to do this. He's only going to be the only one they're going to say, go ahead and you can announce the delays in your films. But here's the thing. He did it, I think, and he was trying to pump everybody up. Like, look, this is a good thing. I commend him for that. But first off, nobody cares about DC Super Pets, so let's just not talk about that at all. Now, Black Adam moving, this movie has been in development since 2007, I believe. It was before even Iron Man got started. So this movie's been in development forever. I don't believe it's ever going to be real until it actually releases. So that's where I stand with that. Oh, shut up, Zoe. But no, sorry, dog's barking. Lay down. Hold on, let my dog out of the room. Give me 1 second here. You can talk about this.
Sure. Yeah, so it's I guess The Rock, being The Rock himself, is always going to be positive about these sort of things. But, you know, just given that the merger just happened not too long ago, it's certainly interesting to see this movie get pushed back and then see what was pushed forward. And you could definitely see that while I'm not tuned, this would be speculation on my end, there might be a direct connection between Black Adam and the second Shazam movie that might not have existed if it was given Black Adam its original release date and then Shazam 2 its original release date. But I do find it interesting that Shazam was moved up to be the direct follow-up to the next DCEU entry for sure. So it's going to be interesting. Like you said, DC Animated Pets, or whatever the name of the movie is, other than Keanu Reeves being Batman, it's not really something that piques my interest. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see why they decided to move Shazam 2 to directly follow up Black Adam. Maybe we get some sort of hint that these two characters will eventually share the silver screen together, which I believe is, I guess, long overdue for sure. So it's going to be interesting, but obviously with the rest of the movies that were shifted, it's definitely telling for sure. So I'll let you continue where you were at.
Oh, I don't even remember where I was at, but I honestly, I don't know what business sense this makes. I know that there's a lot of talk that the VFX, they wanted more time for VFX on everything. And I get that. Now, I've been hearing different reports over the last week that The Flash could have finished on time, but it would have been a race to the finish line. It's kind of what happened with Spider-Man. They were racing to the finish line and they got it good enough, and then they were still updating it while it was in theaters.
Yeah.
So that's what I've heard for The Flash. When it comes to Shazam: Fury of Gods, that has been done, completed, and on the shelf for a number of months at this point. It's been done. It's sitting there waiting to come out. Black Adam as well. That's been sitting there for quite a while as well. But interesting to hear that they're now talking about going back for reshoots. I've heard rumors that they're going to do some additional photography for Black Adam. Is that something that was why they pushed Black Adam back? Because I don't see the reason for pushing Black Adam back at this point. Like, it's still going to come out in July. Because this is all about making money this year. So they would make probably more money if they were released it in July as opposed to October, because then you're coming up against a bunch of other films that are coming out in October and November and December, such as Avatar 2.
Yeah, leaving Shazam to face Avatar 2 is most certainly one of the curious decisions I've seen in the slate moving around as it was.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a terrible idea. I think they're two vastly different enough. They're different enough that when you take a look at like, I'm not going to go see Avatar. I'm not going to see it. I thought the first one was horrible. I don't care for a second one. And I honestly don't think it's going to be as big as so many people are saying. I don't think there's that want for an Avatar movie.
Right.
Will it make money? Yeah. Will it make $1 billion?
Probably.
Maybe, but I don't think it's going to do that 2 billion or 1.5 billion that they're thinking. I think there's going to be a drop off from the first one. And I think that's where Shazam can fit in there. I mean, it is coming out, I think, 6 days, 7 days, 5 days, something like that prior to Avatar 2.
Okay.
So it has that almost an entire week to move forward and make its money. But that's a more family friendly, experience. Like, that's where you're going to take your kids on Christmas Day. You're not going to take your kids to go see Avatar. You're not going to take you're not going to, and I think Shazam will do well. Shazam is not going to be $1 billion movie either. It's not. It could be a $600 million movie, $700 million movie, but when you start going higher than that, that is unrealistic. So I'm looking at the $500 million range for Shazam, and I think it could absolutely do that, even going up against Avatar. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm excited to see it. I can't wait to see it. I loved the first one. It's one of my favorite DC movies. So I can't wait to see that. But Aquaman, I mean, I was shocked that they hadn't moved it until now. I was for certain that they were going to move that thing a while ago. And then they did their little Heroes trailer, and I said, well, they're sticking to it.
Yep.
They're going forward. And they went and moved it, which is fine. But the interesting aspect of this all is, if the Flash movie is going to reestablish and create this new timeline or continuity, these movies were due to come out after that. So is that continuity not changing, or is it going to not be as significant as we thought?
Honestly, I don't believe in coincidences. So obviously this news broke, and then 2 days later, the merger was officially announced by the stakeholders and the shareholders. So I'm maybe reading a little too much into it, more on the Snyderverse conversation that we had before, but it's hard to believe that. So as you said, The Flash, I believe that all these movies, since they were originally slated to release this year, probably would have been done on time. Maybe not Aquaman 2. I know that that's a heavy VFX sort of movie, but I'm just curious with the timing of this, with the timing of the teaser trailer that we got for the 2022 releases, and for it all to just do a complete 180, and just the whole slate is changed, and now The Flash is kind of slated as the last movie to come out. It's going to be interesting to see if any story changes. I've heard a couple of rumblings that some minor tweaks might be made to these movies to kind of retrofit, to have an open to interpretation in terms of what's it to follow up to, in terms of the event movie that we saw versus Justice League versus Zack Snyder's Justice League. I've heard a couple of different things about that, being that some minor details in these movies might be tweaked so that in the future, maybe something can be retrofitted to fit the overall narrative of, I guess, the Snyderverse, as we call it. But It's going to be interesting. I know that you're of the mindset that the Flash is basically going to do what it was set out to do, regardless of what happens in terms of the Snyderverse being released. But I do hold a little hope out that maybe things will be tweaked enough to the point where, hey, we are introducing new characters, new iterations of characters, but these people still exist. These people are still in our universe, and they will be followed up on at some point. There are too many big name talents tied to this universe that are not currently having an active role in this universe. And I'm talking about Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, even Gal Gadot to a certain extent. You know, I felt like there was definitely room in this universe to have her cameo here and there in present day. So
well, don't worry. There's a rumor that her ass cameos in Shazam, so get ready for that.
Yeah, that's no, and it's just I feel like the talent levels that we have and what Zaslav has been saying in terms of repairing relationships with top tier talents and the timing of the teaser trailer versus the announcements of the delays, then the announcement of the shareholders approving the merger. It's all a bit quite convenient in terms of the proximity that these news outlets are starting to come with. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I've always been taught not to believe in coincidences. So we'll see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's hard for me to believe because legally, Zaslav Discovery cannot do a single thing in influencing the way Warner Brothers handles anything right now. They can't until the sale is final, the merger is complete. They cannot have a say at all legally. Now, that doesn't mean that there could not be backhanded deals and conversations and stuff like that. Not saying that doesn't take place because it very well could take place, but I'm not saying that that is happening, but I'm also saying it's not happening.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I really believe that when you talk about like Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck and such, Ben Affleck, he's at this point in time, he's done. He's done his stuff. If anything pops up, if he wants to do it, he'll do it at some point. I'm not worried about him. But when we talk about someone like Henry Cavill, we know that he's been fighting and pushing for quite some time to get moving, coming back as Superman. We know that there's a chance that he's going to make a cameo in either one or both of Black Adam and Shazam 2. So that is to be expected. Could that be a reason why they kind of connected or brought those two movies closer together because there's going to be connective tissue there? Maybe. Or maybe it's just really we're all overthinking it. And maybe it is just that they wanted to give the VFX teams more time to work on these films. I don't know. I'd like to say that it's the merger. I'd like to say that it's because they're restoring the Snyderverse, but my gut is telling me that their plans are not changing for the main DCEU continuity. It's not. I mean, they've got Batgirl already filming with Michael Keaton's Batman being involved with that. Now, what's going to happen with that? Because that was due to come out at the end of this year. Are they going to push that till the middle of next year after The Flash? What does that mean? So there's still a lot of questions up in the air because we know that there are going to be changes to the DC universe from The Flash. So that's kind of where I stand with it is like at this point, I think it's more of a wait and see. I would love the Snyderverse to be restored. I would love for that to everything that's happening to mean that. But I also would understand if it's just VFX, if they were like, yep, we just want to get the VFX done. That's all. Honestly.
I just think that for the Flash to be delayed for as long as it was delayed, like I could understand if it was just pushed back into early next year because it was slated to come out, I believe, in November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So if it was slated to come out in the first half of 2023, I could kind of understand it, but for it to be pushed back a whole year is kind of
I mean, really, the Flash has been delayed 5 times already.
Yeah,
that's another movie that I don't really believe exists until I see
it. One of the greatest quotes of the show so far.
But honestly, I mean, and it's funny because I think it was last Tuesday after our show, we were messaging each other. And I was like, hey, what do you want the show to be about next week? And you're like, oh, how about what's next with the future of DC? What's coming after Batman? And then all of this happened this week. Like this whole entire craziness in regards to the schedule changing and lineup changing and everything like that. So it was it worked out really well for us to be able to talk about it. But do we have a reason to be excited for DC right now?
Well, there's always a reason to be excited. These are take everything that's happened behind the scenes out. These are characters that, people have grown up with, whether through the comics or through the movies. As you said, Michael Keaton was the first superhero movie I've ever seen. So just looking forward to these iteration of characters. I loved Shazam. I cannot wait to see what The Rock looks like in a DC universe film. Aquaman was pretty dope to me, and to see a follow-up where he's a full-out king of Atlantis is something that I cannot wait to see. Obviously, The Flash, just given the basic premise of the movie, is something that is interesting. Going back in time, visiting alternate universes. I know Marvel's, I guess, already kind of beat them to the punch when it comes to the multiverse, but DC can do a whole bunch of different things with their multiverse. So I think it's going to be, obviously there's always a reason to be excited. You should never let, for the Snyderverse fans out there, if the Snyderverse gets restored, doesn't get restored, whatever. These are characters that are based off of Zack Snyder's interpretation of characters that were previously introduced to us and built off of that universe. So I think there's always a reason to be excited for new properties to come. I just think that with introductions to new storylines and stuff, it would just takes a breath of fresh air into the DCU. Something that I feel like has been long overdue for quite some time, honestly. Like, as you said, Shazam was a complete palate cleanser for me. Like, from what we're used to in the DCEU, like, it's obviously connected to the Snyderverse of the DCEU, but just to have a complete palate cleanser with that, and even Aquaman in a way too, for that matter, it was a breath of fresh air. And it's something that, you can introduce different genres into this universe. And I think that's something that they need to embrace a whole lot more for the future and the, I guess, future outlook of these movies and universe, as you could say, or multiverse for that matter. Batgirl is also a very interesting character that I'm kind of familiar with from the comics, and what direction they take her in is going to be fascinating. Sasha Cal's Supergirl, like, there's a bunch to be looking forward to, so it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
So what is Culture Nerd hinting at? There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. Wonder what they're hinting at. Reach out to Taylor, find out if he knows anything.
I will most certainly will, and keep it to myself for sure. So
exactly, yeah, we can't tell anybody anything. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, look, like you said, there's a reason to be excited for what's coming in DC, DC films for sure. Blue Beetle's still is coming up. I can't wait for that. Regardless of how I feel about what they're doing with Batgirl, I don't think the suit looks all that great, but hey, I'm interested to see what they do. And like I said, with the Flash and with Michael Keaton, I just want to see, I'm interested to see what they do with it. But I am excited for Rock. I'm excited for Black Adam. I'm excited for Shazam 2. Aquaman 2, I'm excited for. So I think there's plenty of reason to be excited, especially because they have a plan. There is a plan in place. Just because we don't see it yet doesn't mean it's actually there. They do have a plan. They have an idea of how they want to move these characters and this continuity forward. I'm just hoping that when Zaslav comes in, he doesn't blow it all up.
Right.
But we will definitely see what goes on there for sure. But everybody out there, let us know what you think. Your thoughts. Throw in the comments below what you think of what's going on with the DC film universe. Is it a smart move in delaying all this? Is it a stupid move? Do you not care at all? Just let us know in the comments. I want to know. I want to know what everybody thinks. But I think that's it. I think we covered everything today.
Amazingly,
somehow.
In under an hour for sure.
Yeah,
or under an
hour,
hour, 10 minutes. Yep.
Yeah.
Amazingly. Can't wait to see what the following week brings for sure.
Yeah.
This is how weeks are starting to look. So
yeah. Now I do want to say, because of the stream this Saturday, I will not be doing a live show this coming Monday. I actually am going to be interviewing next Monday. I'm going to be interviewing the people who run Three Rivers Comic Con. So I'm going to be interviewing them, and then that interview will be up on the channel probably within a couple weeks after that, after I do all my editing and all that jazz. So be on the lookout for that. I can't wait for that. But there won't be a live show next week. unless I can get Colton to maybe do it. I don't know if he's busy. I got to talk to him. But other than that, don't forget, don't miss out. Join us on March 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Us United, celebrating Zack Snyder's Justice League movie watch along. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. I actually haven't watched the entirety of that movie for probably about 6 months. Every once in a while I'll go and I'll pick out pieces and segments of the movie and I'll watch that. But in its entirety, it's probably been about 6 months since I've watched it from start to finish. So
I still remember the first time I watched it on March 18th last year, and it just brought pure happiness to me, honestly. Just to see it released and stuff is just it was awesome. So
yeah, it was amazing, quite amazing. and getting teary-eyed watching Flash turn back time at the end. Oh man. Okay. Anyway, we'll talk all about that on Saturday. But yeah, definitely join us this Saturday for that. But with all that said, guys, I'm all out of things to say. I don't know about you, Ken. You good?
Yeah, I got everything I needed to say. So
excellent. So with all that, guys, we will talk at all of you later.